Let's say you finally invest your first $1,000. You feel proud. You did it. Then you open your brokerage app the next morning and your investment is down $87. Now you're thinking, did I just mess up? That moment, that's where most beginners panic. And suddenly every confident decision you made feels wrong because once your money's in the market, psychology changes. You want your money to grow, you want financial freedom, you want to retire before 65, but you also don't want to make a mistake. I'm Kelly, and I've been investing for over a decade. But in this series, I started over publicly, which is $10, and I'm documenting every step, including what I do when volatility hits. Because learning how to invest without panicking is the difference between building wealth and selling at the worst possible time. In the last chapter of this series, I showed you how I earned and invested my first $1,000. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how I invest without panicking, even when the market drops. Because panic isn't just emotional, it's expensive. So if you're tired of feeling confused or investing intimidates you every time the market moves, subscribe below. Because this series helps investors replace panic with confidence by teaching one strategic lesson every week. Let's get into it. Starting with 5 shifts that separate confident investors from emotional ones. Starting with investing shift number 1, understanding what you own. The stock market isn't a casino, it's ownership. You're buying pieces of businesses. If you don't understand how this works, you'll always feel like you're gambling. And when you understand that you're buying ownership in real businesses with financial statements, cash flows, and real operations behind them, volatility becomes noise instead of danger. Panic usually comes from not understanding what you own. For example, when you hear the S&P 500, that's 500 of the largest U.S. companies. Behind every market move are real businesses reporting earnings, announcing strategy changes, and adjusting forecasts. But markets can react quickly. Sometimes all it takes is just one headline to shift expectations. And when expectation shifts, prices move. For example, let's look at Meta platforms in late 2022. Revenue growth slowed, TikTok competition increased, and there was heavy spending on the metaverse, and fear took over. At one point, Meta dropped over 70% from its highs. Did the company disappear? No. Did billions of people stop using Facebook and Instagram? No. What changed was investor confidence. Fear dominated expectations. That's behavioral analysis at work. For example, when the stock market goes up, investors tend to buy more because they feel comfortable. However, when the stock market goes down, investors feel that they'll lose money and sell. This behavior pattern can make an investor broke. Over decades, U.S. markets have averaged roughly 11% a year. Confident investors make decisions based on that long-term trend, not short-term fear. But you only earn that return if you stay invested long enough to capture it. So now that you understand what you own, the next question becomes, why does the price move so much? Which brings me to investor shift number 2, understanding why prices move. The stock market doesn't move based on today, it moves based on what investors think tomorrow will look like. The stock market lives 6 to 24 months ahead of today, meaning prices reflect what investors expect in the future, not what's happening right now. For example, when artificial intelligence became the dominant market narrative in 2023-24, investors started reevaluating companies tied to AI. Palantir is a great example. Palantir reported profitability milestones, positioned itself as an AI-dated company, and benefited from massive AI enthusiasm. Even when revenue growth wasn't explosive every quarter, expectations about future AI demand pushed the stock dramatically higher. So what happened? The stock didn't rise because of current earnings. It rose because investors believed the future AI demand would accelerate growth. And in 2025, Palantir's stock grew roughly 145%. That's expectations driving price and forward-looking markets. So if the market dropped 20% tomorrow, would you buy more or would you sell? Be honest with yourself, because your answer to that question is what separates long-term investors from people who start over every 5 years. Now that you understand expectations, let's talk about what actually moves price. When more investors believe in the future of a company, buyers become more aggressive. When fear spreads, sellers become more aggressive. That's supply and demand in action. If a company can't meet demand, revenue suffers. If demand is strong and supply is tight, revenue improves. And when revenue improves, that's what shows up in earnings and eventually in the stock market. For example, if a company couldn't provide supplies because they didn't have enough cash on hand and was about to go bankrupt, would you want to invest in that company? Probably not. On the other hand, if a company had a product that everyone wanted, what do you think would happen to that stock? Let me provide you with an example. Micron Technology, a leading American manufacturer of high-performance semiconductor memory, had an earnings call in December 2025. The company mentioned their advanced memory chip capacity for calendar year 2026 was sold out. What do you think happened to that stock? It exploded. At the time of earnings, Micron was about $225. Just 2 months later, that stock grew to $424 with a gain of 88%. This is the power of supply and demand. And as we go deeper in this series, I'll break down real earnings reports so you understand what's actually driving those moves instead of reacting to headlines. But here's what's important. That same shift, which pushes the stock up 88%, can push it down just as fast. And that's why the next shift matters. Investing shift number 3, accept that volatility is normal. Bears versus bulls. These are the words to describe market trends. A bull market often corresponds to periods of economic and job growth where the stock market increases by 20%, where a bear market is tied to periods of economic decline, a shrinking economy, and a stock market decrease of 20%. Nobody wants to remember March 2020 when the world shut down, but it's a great example of a bear market where the S&P 500 plummeted 19%. This was the start of an economic decline and businesses shutting down. The hospitality industry was hit the hardest during COVID-19. In March 2020, I was overseeing multiple hotel properties. I remember the phone ringing nonstop with cancellations. I also remember signing termination paychecks for employees with families while watching our revenue disappear in real time. Hotels were closing, my friends were getting laid off, travel stopped, hospitality stocks were crashing. And when I was watching my industry collapse, it brought me back to the housing market crash of 2008. I knew we were in a recession. But fast forward to the end of 2020, the economy recovered and people felt safe to travel again. And hotels started making money again. Which brings me to another example. Let's look at Marriott stock in 2020 versus today. If you would have invested $5,000 in Marriott stock at the bottom of 2020, today you would have had $21,814 and made $16,820 in profit. That's a 336% total growth. If you sold during the fear of 2020, you locked in that loss. So if you understand that most beginners don't lose money because they picked the wrong stock, instead they lose money because they panic at the wrong time. 2020 was a good example of how leaving money in the market paid off. A negative 20% year doesn't destroy long-term wealth. Selling during a negative 20% year does. Volatility is the price of admission. So if volatility is unavoidable, how do you actually build wealth through it? Which brings me to investor shift number 4. Why time in the market is your biggest asset. Whether you invest or not, time is still moving. And if you're not invested, inflation is quietly working against you. Inflation is the cost of goods rising and the value of money falls. Let me give you an example. If you earn a living of $2,000 a month in 2026, costs will go up and be higher in 2046. Based on the rule of 72 with an inflation rate of 3%, the cost of goods and services doubles automatically every 24 years. And as of 2026, $2,000 will only be worth $950 in 20 years. So if you get a 3% raise, congratulations, you're just being compensated for the rise in inflation. Without a raise, you'd be losing money each year and getting poorer. To fight inflation, investing is your best option, so you can continue to grow wealth above the inflation rate. So how can a beginner investor beat inflation? By investing continuously and not allowing volatility in the market to become an influence. Doing nothing isn't safe, it's quietly expensive. And what makes that strategy powerful isn't timing, it's compounding. Compound interest continues when you earn interest on money you save and the interest you've earned. Let's take an investment of $10,000 and invest it in the stock market, earning 11% a year. I'm going to use coins to help you visualize how your money will grow over time. If you start with $10,000 with an annual return of 11%, you'll earn $1,100 on your money in the first year, which means your money will grow to $11,100. If you keep that $11,100 invested and earn 11% the following year, your money just compounded and earned you $1,221. Now you have $12,321. If you continue to invest your money in the stock market or another interest-bearing account, your money will continue to compound interest each year. Here's the real danger though. You don't lose money because prices move. You lose money when you panic and interrupt compounding. If you want compounding to work for you, there are 3 practical rules I follow. And if you want to remove panic from investing, you need rules, not reactions. First, only invest money you won't need for at least 5 years, because if you need the money next month, volatility becomes an emergency. However, if you don't need it for years, volatility becomes temporary. Second, buy and hold. That means you choose quality investments and you stay invested. You don't jump in and out every time the market moves. Long-term investors win because they allow time to work. Third, if I was a brand new investor, I would use broad index funds. If you're a brand new investor, focus on learning first. Stay diversified with broad index funds, avoid concentrating your money in a single stock, and give your portfolio time to grow while your knowledge catches up. So instead of trying to guess which company wins, you own the market. And when you own hundreds of companies at once, one bad headline doesn't shake your confidence. But diversification alone isn't enough. How you invest matters just as much as when you invest. Which brings me to investor shift number 5. Focus on a target, not today. This is where dollar cost average comes in. It simply means investing consistently every week or every month, regardless of what the market is doing. When prices drop, you buy more shares. When prices rise, you buy fewer. For example, let's say you decide to invest $100 into an index fund every month. Some months, the index fund may be priced lower, allowing you to purchase more shares at a discount with your investment. However, other months, the price of the index may rise, resulting in the purchase of fewer shares with the same amount of money. This is how you invest without panicking. You automate discipline so emotions don't get a vote. And having a clear roadmap shifts your focus from, what did the market do today, to, did I hit my monthly target? For example, if you invest $500 a month at 11% for 1 year, you should end up with $6,660. Notice something? That growth didn't come from a perfect day in the market. It came from consistency. When you have a yearly investment goal, whether that's $5,000, $10,000, or $25,000, daily volatility becomes background noise. Then you can say, my focus isn't the daily swings, my focus is my target. So what's your target? My goal is to reach $10,000 invested by the end of the year, and I'm doing it in a way that's realistic, even if that means extra hours or a small side hustle, which means discipline and consistency matters. So even though I'm building momentum from $1,000 to $5,000, then $10,000, I'm making actionable steps that are achievable, even with volatility. The market will move whether I participate or not. The question is, will you? Because the next time your account is down $87 or $870 or even $8,700, you'll know exactly what to do. But execution always requires the right setup. See, most beginners' mistakes aren't about picking the wrong stock. They're about using the wrong account structure. So if you don't want to figure this out on your own, I work with a small number of people one-on-one, and I have that link below. And if you're building your first portfolio and want confidence instead of chaos, subscribe below. And to everyone who's subscribed and been there since the beginning, I appreciate you. We're just getting started. Next week, I'll continue my investing journey from $1,000 to $5,000 and spin the risk versus reward wheel to decide what asset category I'm investing in next. I'll see you there.